Hi. This is kind of a new thing I want to do, where I want to pick out some particular Zeppelin songs. Scott, can you see me even? It doesn't look like it's looking. And talk about them, and also demonstrate some drum stuff in it, but also the song itself. And I think a great example, a classic example of a Zeppelin tune, like really one of many, but that sum up the essence of Zeppelin, is Over the Hills and Far Away. Because it starts out so pretty with the acoustic guitar, 6-string acoustic, and Robert Plant singing folksy. And then we move into some 12-string overdub, a lot like Stairway to Heaven. And then, like in Stairway to Heaven, they build up into the drums and stuff. But with Over the Hills and Far Away, we get into the 12-string. I mean, classic. And then Bonham comes in. Okay? And it sounds like, and the neat thing about when Bonham comes in is the feel really kind of has a sound like there really is sort of an implied 16th sound. But he's not, from where I'm sitting, he's not doing that on the hat. There's a little bit of this, like little ghost notes that give it a 16th feel. A little bit of that. Now Bonham and a lot of really good drummers, unlike myself, are very good at soft ghost notes. I have a harder time with it because of my left hand, kind of. And again, I mean, I'll get to the bottom of it. I mean, maybe some beta blockers will help. But that's very important. So the 16, and also too, when that's going on, I think Page is either strumming sort of a muted electric guitar or the 12-string or both, that really give it that, that sort of give it that 16th chug. Okay, so what I did was I sort of wrote notes out, just so because otherwise I won't really remember. I'll skip over stuff, as of course always I do. So, and such a neat thing is we do get, you know, when you get to the hi-hat part. Well, you've seen as diehard Zeppelin people, when Bonham would play that live, often it'd be like, okay? But on the recording, he's going, okay, so that, I mean, it takes up, because it starts on like a 16th note before, it's sort of a jump, then carries its way through that 16th note and then the rest of the 8th note. Okay? That is just classic Bonham. Now, you'll notice in that song, or at least for most of the song, Bonham's kit, although, you know, the classic big Bonham kit and the big sound, the 6.5 by 14, and you can tell, you can hear the 26 whoom for the bass drum. But it's very close-mic'd, if you listen to it, okay? It's not a big room sound. Until, what's really interesting about the song is when we get to about, I wrote the number down, so about 234 in the song. And you can, I recommend, bring up this song in a window on your computer while I'm talking about it. And go to the one, if you type in Zeppelin Over the Hills Far Away, you'll see a picture of the cover of the album where they did that shooting, or the photography with Plant's kids. Go there, because that's the times I'm using, which is, of course, I mean, because it starts right away. Apparently they're in Europe and then get away, different countries, and get away with just putting the music up like that. God love them. But the room, well, you know, before we get to that, but you'll notice the room sound kind of comes in. They fade in. Page and whoever was engineering you know, they fade in a room sound on the drums and also on the guitars a little bit. So suddenly you get that real physical graffiti, which came a little later, that physical graffiti room sound. Like suddenly, if you really listen to it, suddenly in that solo part, in the solo, suddenly it sort of goes to a physical graffiti, beefy room sound that you'd hear like on Wanton Song and stuff. Like that, just beefy, that sound. And then they fade that out about at 3 minutes, the 3-minute point, okay? You know what is a quick interesting thing is that's one of the last times in this song at 2:21 when Bonham does the he does that. However he sticks it, right? But a triplet, a classic like from the old days. From like Zeppelin 1 and Zeppelin 2. Classic. Bringing it back a little bit. A little bit of retro Bonham in his own stuff. So, you have to climb up on about the 3-minute point, which is so cool. That is a classic Bonham thing that they employ on a lot of stuff, where they would, when they first bust into the song, there'll be a crash on the 2 or the 4 on the snare, on the upbeat. Okay, so you have. Okay, so a crash. That's just really kick-ass, isn't it? And you'll notice in there that on that climb, that's when they really start to fade out the room sound. And they go back into sort of the more woolly studio sound of the recording, which is a real interesting effect, which if you've never really noticed it. So we go back into that, and that is just really terrific. So we go back into a verse, you know, you sort of sandwich, you have the solo back into a verse, and it is classic Robert Plant singing there. You know, he really, that's when his voice is still really planty, like he still has a lot of control, a big range in his voice. And, but you know what else is neat too, after they do the, on that straight time back into the verse where they start, they get the live sound out of the mix. That's just so classic Bonham. It's so like da-na-na-na, 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 da-da-da-da. Because it's switch, it's like Cashmere. Da-na-na, da-na-na. See how in that progression it alternates from the bass drum sort of on the top of it to the snare. Well, here it's kind of like that's just classic Zepp, you know, and it's simple. But not simplistic. It's simple. I hurt my back making cymbal videos. So then, what happens is then we get to that really neat thing where he's like, just a nice little touch-up thing. You know, one thing Bonham and Page both did very consciously. I mean, Page is a genius. I mean, Bonham's a great drummer, but Page knows his shite. He does. And when Zeppelin recorded their stuff, they did the coolest stuff, but the key is they didn't overdo it. They didn't milk it for all it was worth, right? They didn't go over that. It would just be something kind of cool, and then they wouldn't kind of really do it again. And it's just, that is just a really nice sort of hold back, you know, in the same way that Bonham, you know, they would hold back the time a little, like just kind of little things like, you know, it's the same with also the whole the whole scope of the music, not even just a particular instrument, namely the drums. So we have the 2 snare 320, and then we go into the ending. Okay? Do you know what I'm saying? Of course, you know, Bonham isn't hitting the snare when he does those. It's on the bass drum, which gives it that kind of turnaround effect. Okay, like that. Hang on. It's just classic. And again there, we then go in to an outro. They fade the drums out, and then we go into that real pretty outro. That classic Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones coming together on the outro. It is just a really to me, that's just a really classic. I mean, so many of Zeppelin tunes are their classic Zeppelin tunes because they're all sort of have their own mojo and their own personality. But this, that I always felt that Over the Hills, Far Away is a classic example of when they sort of fuse like a folky. When I say folk, I mean I'm not talking like straight up Joan Baez, kind of like, you know, the Gaslight, early New York stuff. But you know what I mean, like a real folksy, you know, acoustic. You know, they're coming off Zeppelin 3 where they really kind of did the acoustic thing. But it's just a classic sort of paradigm of kind of how Zeppelin worked. And I really got a kick out of it. As I'm sure you did too. So that's what I'm going to do with a couple of the Zeppelin tunes. Just because I think they're worthy of note. Also too, what I want to do too is I will do some play-alongs to some of the songs. But again, you're not going to hear the music. Because I don't want Warner and Page or the Swan Song, you know, leftovers, like being like, sorry dude, and taking it down, you know, and it affecting maybe my channel in general, right? But that's what I'm going to do. So thanks for watching. Again, I would recommend for this video, you watch my video and then bring up Over the Hills and Far Away on that, the one I had mentioned, and just sort of, you listen to sort of what I'm talking about. I'm just, oh, and of course, he does employs the turnaround a little. Couple of those in there. Ba ba da ba ba da ba. Well, actually, it's when the guitar goes da 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 ba da in there. Ba 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 da da ba. But it's really kind of swung. It's not like it would be in da 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 right. It's almost real like da 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 like da 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 da. Just a teeny bit of swung in there. Da, 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 da. I mean, it's not there. It's not a straight swing. Da 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 da. It's just a teeny bit of like a instead of. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a little bit of a dance. And that's really nice. You see, we subtle freaks notice the Zeppelin. We Zeppelin freaks notice the subtle. So again, keep watching my videos, I hope. I hope everybody gets a kick out of them. And there'll be more videos. So keep coming back. Thanks.